Okay, here we go. It is time to talk about Horse Ranch, the newest expansion pack for The Sims 4. I had the opportunity to have early access to this pack for about a week, so I've been playing it a lot. And in this review video, I'm going to walk you through what comes in the pack, what my biggest disappointments were, and also whether or not I think Horse Ranch is worth buying. So a couple disclaimers, I was given early access to this through the EA Creator Network. I'm not being paid or anything, they literally just gave me the pack early. And we had a kind of special version of the game that was just the base game and the new pack. It also has a watermark floating around the screen and no access to the gallery and stuff. So because of that, I couldn't test out any cross-pack compatibility with things like seasons or cats and dogs yet, but I have played many hours of Horse Ranch, and hopefully that watermark isn't too distracting. It's small, but it's kind of annoying how it floats around the screen. Trust me, I know, I've been staring at it for days. But with that being said, let's get into the review. I feel like I played with this pack a lot, and I still didn't get to everything I wanted to do during the early access period, and they even extended the early access period. There's a lot to do and discover with this pack, so I'm really excited for it to actually come out. I feel like it makes the most sense to start out and create a sim, and I think the best word to describe the cast of this pack is just yeehaw. There's a lot of cowboy boots and cowboy hats and denim and things like that. A lot of the items have swatches that look quite dirty, like you've been out in the mud on the ranch, but they also all have more normal, clean swatches as well. There's not really that many hairstyles in this pack. We got 10 total. We did get 3 new ones in the base game this week around this launch though, and I assume most of their time in cast was more horse focused, which I guess makes sense to me. The kids didn't really get that much stuff either, just a couple things for each age group. The toddler stuff is really adorable. There's a cute dress and some cute pants, and the infants got this little horse onesie that is so cute. Overall, the cast stuff isn't really a huge standout to me. It's cute, I like it. It is exactly what you would expect from a pack like this. It's just not really my personal style, so I probably won't use a lot of these things in my regular non-Horse Ranch gameplay, but it works very well for the purpose that it serves. The horse create a sim stuff, the create a horse stuff though, is so cool. The horse cast works very similarly to cats and dogs and werewolves, so you can really customize them. You can pick between different breeds and patterns, you can customize their manes and their bangs even. You can change any of their colors using swatches or a color wheel, and you can also paint on them, so you can make totally unique and custom horses. Look, I'm not very good at this, so I don't think I'll be delving into the horse painting stuff too much, but there are some really talented people that do some amazing things with painting on dogs, so I can't even imagine how good the horse stuff they'll make will be. The only part of horses that isn't completely customizable color-wise is their mane. Instead of a color wheel, we have swatches for their hair, and I guess that's a little bit disappointing because I'd like to be able to use a color wheel for it, but if anything, it just makes me feel sad about Sims hair. Like, if we could have that many swatches for human hair, I would be so happy. There's so many different natural color variants, but also a ton of pastel color variants. Why don't we have those pastel swatches for regular Sims? It's like taunting us. But the horses also have a whole bunch of accessories and different clothing items, I guess if you could call it that. You can obviously pick between different saddles and stuff. My favorite cast stuff by far is this flower crown and this tiny little cowboy hat. In cast, horses also have a ton of different traits to pick from, and humans got 2 new traits. We've got the horse lover trait and the rancher trait now. We also now have the championship rider aspiration and a nectar making aspiration called the expert nectar maker. But I think that pretty much covers it for Create a Sim. Moving on into build mode, I think the furniture of this pack is also very yeehaw. There's a lot of wood tones and very rustic looking items. The wood almost looks a little bit distressed in this pack. We got quite a few new doors and windows, but I was kind of disappointed in the swatches of some of these. I hate when they make things that don't match. We've got a couple variants of this barn door and a few different sizes. So we have a short and medium wall height one and then also a closed one. They're cute, right? And it's the same thing 3 times, at least you would think. So you'd assume that they would match. The medium wall height one and the short closed one match, but this short wall height one doesn't have the same swatches at all. There isn't a red swatch. And then on this one, it's a solid color, but on the other 2, it's got a white accent. This makes me so irrationally angry. It bothers me so much when they do this. Why? Why don't they match? So we have a few sets of windows that kinda have the same swatches, but look, this one, it's got blue and white, and then this one is just solid blue. And this door also has no completely solid wood colors. They all have the white accent, but if you had just made all of these things have the same swatches, we could mix and match them so much more easily. They always do this where they almost spread themselves too thin with window and door styles, so we end up up with 3 or 4 different incomplete window sets, when I would rather have just one kind of window but a bunch of different styles. Like if we got this set in 3 or 4 more sizes, I would be really happy. But instead, we have all these different options that don't really match that well. Don't get me wrong, I do like the build mode. It just feels like we always have this problem with every single pack. We did get a lot of really cool build stuff though. I think one of my favorite parts is the fact that you can build your own custom stall for the horses. I expected the horse stalls in this pack to be very similar to Sims 3, where it was just one big square item. But instead, in the Sims 4, we've got a little tiny flat horse bed. It's 3 by 3 tiles and it's almost flat to the ground, so you can just customize around it to make your own horse stall. I love being able to completely customize my own instead of being stuck with just the one object, because this way you can change the size and the style completely. I am also obsessed with these new custom shutters we're getting. You know I love shutter windows, and for the first time we've got a shutter item that you can put on any window. It obviously matches the stuff from this pack, but it's also got some normal wood swatches and white and black swatches, so it's gonna work for like any build. I feel like I'm probably gonna use those all the time. Anytime we get a new kitchen set in a pack, I am very happy, and this one is very rustic, it's wooden. I feel like it's gonna work very well, obviously for horse ranch stuff, but also for general cabin type building. And there's also some really nice beds in this pack. We got a whole bunch of them. There's 3 single beds, 2 double beds, and a bunk bed. I'm gonna do a live stream today on my Twitch channel showing off some more complete overviews of this stuff, so if you want to see that, my Twitch is linked down below. My name is just lilsimsie on Twitch, same as it is here on YouTube, and I'm planning on doing a lot of horse live streams this week. So moving on from build mode, I think one of my favorite parts of the entire pack is the new world. It's called Chestnut Ridge, and it is huge. There's 3 neighborhoods and 13 lots, but more importantly, there's a ton of space in the environment around them. And this exact thing was a huge criticism I had of growing together, but I actually have the opposite feelings here. In this case, it makes sense for the houses to be quite spread out and to have big, wide country spaces that you can ride around between them. This world is actually a little bit different than I was expecting because the lots are smaller than I thought they would be. I figured they'd all be 40 by 30 plus, maybe like multiple 64 by 64 lots, but actually most of them are around 30 by 20 sized. Usually I desperately want more smaller lots that are closer together, but again, in this case, it's kind of the opposite. I kind of want big, wide lots that are far away. What's interesting is there's so many horse training things added around into the environment that it's kind of okay if you don't have them on your own lot. Most of the lots here are designed so it feels like the space around your lot belongs to you, even though it's not technically on your lot. So there's big, wide fences just in the environment and horse pastures that look attached to your home. So even if you don't have space for jumps, for example, on your lot, there's usually one already placed right next to your lot. All of the areas just feel designed to make your house and your space feel bigger. The environment of this place is amazing. I think it's one of my favorite worlds so far just because it is so beautiful. It seems to be sort of inspired by the American West, and there's also a lot of Native American inspiration in this pack, which I am so grateful for. One thing I will say is I was expecting to have a huge horse training park like in The Sims 3. I figured there'd be like a big 64 by 64 lot park that's full of jumping courses and stuff, but that's just not a thing here. There is a small horse training barn almost across the street from the competition center. The world also has a couple of community lots and a handful of townie houses. So with the townies, one of the households is a smaller family with a kid and a couple horses living on this big ranch, and the dad's sister also lives in town and works as the horse trainer. In one of the neighborhoods, there's a young couple that lives together and makes Nectar, and there's also an older guy who lives out alone in the Gulch, which by the way is one of the most horrible words I have ever had to say. The neighborhood at the top is called Galloping Gulch, and they describe it as the Gulch a lot. A gulch is a ravine basically, but it's such an ugly word. The downtown area is called New Appaloosa as a nod to Appaloosa Plains from The Sims 3, which was my favorite world ever in The Sims. And the last one is kind of a farmy space called Ryder's Glen. There's not really that many townies living here, but I think they did a pretty good job of detailing them. There's some lore with these Sims. The horse trainer Sienna has this sentiment with this weird, mysterious rancher guy who doesn't actually live in the world. Kind of like the Crumplebottoms don't live in the world, he's just around. But she's got a sentiment from him saving her life. The child is also enemies with his neighbor, which I thought was kind of funny. It really makes such a big difference when townies have existing relationships. One of the things that kind of made me sad was that 2 of the Sims had the same hairstyle, and don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful braid. But the first Sim I made also had that hairstyle, so now like half the town had the same haircut. It's cute, I like it, but I just wish there was some more variety in the hairstyles hairstyles we're using, because there are so many nice hairs in this pack. There's some new nice base game ones, so I feel like they could have used those to show off more of them. The real reason we're all here though is the horses, right? So let's get into it. Moving on to gameplay, there is a lot to cover. I'll say this, I'm not gonna get to tell you about everything because I feel like I haven't seen everything, but when you're first getting started with horses, you can get them in a few different ways. You can obviously make a horse in cast, but you could also rescue or purchase one, and you can breed your own horses. When it comes to purchasing a horse, they all cost 1,000 simoleons by default, and these ones are a little bit better than the rescue horses because they've got less bad traits. If you want, you can also sell your horse, and they end up being worth more money depending on their skill levels. So I had a horse that was very high level and worth almost 20,000 simoleons. I would never sell her because I spent ages leveling those skills up, but that's kind of an interesting feature. Or you could rescue a horse for only 250 simoleons, and this lets you adopt a horse that has less desirable traits. Maybe they're aggressive, things like that. And once you've got horses, if you want to, you can breed them. This works just like cats and dogs. You encourage your Sims to breed, and if it's successful, your horse will be pregnant for a few days before giving birth to a foal. Horses that you breed also have a few special traits that are only achievable through breeding. So they'll have 3 that anyone can get in cast, but also a bonus trait. My foal got a playful trait, but I'm not sure how many options there are or how or why you get them. I only had 1 baby, so I don't really know too many more details. Also, from what I read, it sounds like in real life it's quite dangerous for horses to have twins, so I doubt that's possible in The Sims 4. I don't actually know, but I assume from that reasoning you'll only ever have 1 baby at a time. Now, when you have a foal, a baby horse, either you adopt one or you've bred one, first of all, they are very cute, but they also take some training to have them grow up successfully. When they're young, you can work on improving their temperament skill, which is basically how well they interact with humans. The babies can nurse from their mom, or you can bottle feed them. You actually have to hand feed the foals hay to get them used to eating it and train them how to eat, basically. And once their temperament skill is high enough, they can eat on their own, but otherwise mom will nurse them or you could bottle feed them. I love that detail of trying to wean them off of milk. Also, when mine was first born, it was so wobbly when it walked, and then obviously it slowly got better as it was getting older. This is just one of many animations that I was really impressed by. Now, as the horses grow up, there's a few other skills that they can gain. All of the horses have temperament skills, but the grown-up horses can also gain agility, jumping, and endurance skills. This is done by training with the barrels or the jumps, and also by going on long rides outside to build endurance. There's also 4 different types of tournaments you can enter that are tied to these skills. There's barrel racing tournaments, endurance racing tournaments, show jumping, and Western pleasure tournaments. And there's multiple difficulties of each of these, so once you place in a beginner tournament, you can enter an intermediate one, and so on. If you win, you get prize money and a trophy. Obviously, the higher the level, the more prizes you earn. This is very similar to Sims 3 tournaments, but in my opinion, it is so much better. It's still a rabbit hole, so you'll just click on the building and then send your Sims in there, but there's more options, there's more detail. You can go in there anytime from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and you can also enter more than 1 tournament per day. So if your Sim has 3 horses, they can enter with each horse 1 time. It's really cool trying to level up and work your way through all of them. And one of the aspirations is to be a successful horse competitor. And you know what? This one actually takes a lot of work to complete. It's only 1 screen. There isn't like different tiers like other aspirations have, but you need super high skills and a really good horse to finish it. Horses in general have quite a few similarities to cats and dogs, not in a bad way, but just in a familiar way. Obviously, they're part of your family, so they count as one of your 8 Sims in your household. They also only die from old age, so you don't need to worry about them being sick or starving or anything like that. They also live a really long time. The Sims team told me that it's similar to the lifespan of humans. Yesterday, I opened up my game to get some more competition footage, and my elder horse died. I didn't even know that he was close to dying, so that was kind of an ordeal for me emotionally. I'd prefer to not spend time thinking about that. So on a lighter note, the horse riding animations are so good. Your Sims start out pretty anxious and obviously not very good riders. When they have no skill, they're really not good, and you can see it on their face and in how they ride, but slowly as they improve their skill, they get better and more comfortable. One of my favorite things is how even kids can ride horses because they couldn't in The Sims 3. There's one child town townie in the world, and he's got horse riding skill level 7. So he's better than a lot of the other townies in the world, but also a lot better than you will be when you first start playing. Oh, and the horses also poop a lot, and it's almost too realistic. You can pick up that horse poop and store it if you want. You can just grab it and put it in your inventory. And depending on your horse and their happiness level, the poop is different quality levels. So you could have high quality manure that is worth more money and is a better fertilizer. There's a lot more than this to cover, but that's the main stuff with horses. They fill up the bulk of the pack, but there's also quite a few other fun little features. For example, there is a new nectar making feature, which actually really impressed me. Nectar making is only a 5-level skill, but you build the skill quite slowly, so it feels like a 10-level skill to me. Your Sims stomp on fruit to turn it into nectar, which is wine. And then you can store that nectar to age it, and over time it ends up being worth more and more money. There's this really cool stackable nectar storage rack, and if you put your nectar in there in a basement, it ages faster than anywhere else. This might seem like a very small thing, but I was really impressed by the detail in how the nectar racks fill up as you put new bottles in them. Like, you can actually see when you put a bottle, it appears in the nectar rack. It just looks really real. I love the details of stuff like that. Finely aged, so the longest aged grape nectar sold for 2,300 simoleons. And it started off at like 100, I think. And that's the lowest level nectar you can make. So imagine how expensive the good stuff would be. If you made a fancier wine, you'd get so much money from that. Your Sims can obviously also drink this nectar, but I didn't really bother with that. I was more concerned about making money with it. And you can get a recipe from that mysterious rancher I mentioned for vitality nectar. If you befriend him and ask him about his family recipes, he'll teach you how to make it. I also was able to ask him for ingredients, and he just gave me a death flower. It's usually pretty hard to get death flowers, so him just handing me one was great. And this vitality nectar can lengthen a Sim's life or bring a Sim back to life. One of the other things that kind of surprised me was how much I liked the goats and sheep you can buy. So you can buy and live with mini goats and mini sheep in this pack. They work very similar to the cows and the chickens from cottage living, but in this case, they're not tied to a coop or a barn. So instead of being stuck, they can move around freely, and you can make your own barn if you want, kind of like how you can make your own horse stall. You do have to clean and feed them, and in turn, you can shear the sheep or milk the goats for simoleons. They are so cute. They kind of just hop around. They also play with the horses and with humans. One of them kept trying to scare my foal for a while, and it kept making the foal sad. It actually takes a lot of work to take care of all of this stuff around the farm, so if you want to, you can hire a ranch hand. And these ranch hands kind of work like the maids or the butlers, and they just help you with everything. I did have one issue where the ranch hand just kept grilling. Everything was already cleaned and fed, so he just started grilling and then kept grilling and grilling and grilling. I'm not complaining because his work was done and I liked having free food, but that did kind of surprise me. I think when I first heard about the goats and sheep, I thought it was kind of a random addition, but I actually liked them a lot. And there's a couple new events in this pack. One of them is tied to those goats and sheep. The new events are less of a party like the other ones in The Sims 4 are, and they're more of a community gathering almost. You can invite anyone to it, even if you don't know them. The goal is to have a successful event, and in turn, the people will donate to your ranch. This is actually just prize money from having a gold medal event, but it's supposed to be like them donating to you after being invited to a free event, basically. The first one is Ranch Animal Day, and it's got people coming over to play with your animals. And the other one is Ranch Gathering, and it has them coming over to eat and drink and dance and stuff. I remember originally on the feature list, it talked about showing off your goats, and I thought it was so funny at the time because I was like, that's the feature, you just, look at them? But now that I've played with this, there actually is a feature where you show off the goats and you get money from it. I just originally expected the goats and sheep to be kind of useless, but they weren't. I liked them. One other major surprise to me was the caves. There's this super cool cave feature where your Sims, if they find it, they can go explore in this cave. So once you find the caves and enter them, a few of the levels have different puzzles or riddles to complete to try and progress further down. So for example, one of the secret doors you find says speak ba to enter, and it won't let you through unless you have a sheep in your inventory. I won't spoil too much, but there's a lot of little things like that you have to level through and figure out to get further down. There's way more depth to this, I guess literally, because it's a a deep cave. But like gameplay wise and detail wise, this is way more in depth than I expected. And you can also find all kinds of cool prizes in there. And speaking of cool prizes, one of the most random features is the grass thing. So there's this prairie grass you can get to feed your horses. They'll graze on it, or you can harvest it to have hay in your inventory. And when your Sims harvest it, they've got a chance of finding prizes in there, almost like a loot box. I found some expensive nectar this way. I got some kids' toys. You get different plants. And there's also a new lot challenge for wild prairie grass that has it just grow on your ranch. Otherwise, you can buy it and place it yourself out of build mode. Okay, I think that is all of the major stuff I wanted to talk about. So moving on to my biggest disappointments with this pack, I feel like unicorns are probably gonna be the thing that gets talked about the most. So there isn't a real unicorn feature in this game like there was in The Sims 3. In past games, the unicorns were sort of magical. They had special powers. There was big quests to find them. And in this game, the unicorns don't have any special powers, but you can still make them. In Create a Sim, there's a horn that you can put on your horse. And if you use it, they do sparkle and glow. So it's not just a hat, like they actually do kind of look like a unicorn. I don't know if I care that much about this, but I can definitely see why a lot of people do. It seems like with this pack, they prioritized realism over adding special powers or special features to just one kind of horse. I am sure that behind the scenes, there was a lot of discussion about the best way to do this. So I don't know, it kind of sucks, but I don't think for me, it's that big of a deal personally. Actually, for me, a bigger disappointment is the lack of new woohoo spots and death types in this pack. New death types are always one of my favorite features in a Sims pack, which I realize makes me sound really bad. I'm kind of sad there wasn't one in this pack, but I guess I don't really know what it would be. I don't think it would be right to have a horse be able to kill your Sim even by accident. That just feels too real and almost too morbid to have a Sim in your household cause great harm to another Sim. So I definitely didn't expect that sort of thing. But maybe if like, you know, a sheep could attack you like the chicken does, I don't know. I just like having new death types, okay? I'm also very sad there isn't some kind of hay bale woohoo or something. And I guess horses can die and horses can woohoo, but I just wish we had stuff for the Sims as well. Another kind of big disappointment for me was the horse genetics. I should clarify, I didn't really expect a super cool, robust horse genetic system because even Sims don't have that, but I was disappointed by how the genetics worked. When I had the foal, the baby was basically just a clone of mom with dad's hair color. So it was like mini mom with dad's mane. And so in Create a Sim, I did a few different randomized options just to see what would happen with the genetics. And they're basically all the same. It's like the baby is either gonna be mom or dad. There's no like in between or mixing of their colors or anything. I actually ended up switching the colors on my foal in cast so it felt more like a different horse and more of a mix. I feel like people who are really into horses are probably gonna be sad about this too. It's not a huge deal. It's not the end of the world. I just wish it was a little bit more detailed. The pack's not actually out yet as I'm recording this, but I've already been seeing so many people online saying how it should have been a game pack and not an expansion pack. I don't really think I agree with that at all, especially after playing with it because horses are big. Like literally they're very large creatures, but the gameplay involved is big. I feel like I can see this criticism because of how we've gotten a cats and dogs pack and then a cottage living pack, which both could have been things that horses maybe could have fit into, but I really think they stand alone. I think the world and the details and how much gameplay there is really makes the pack feel full. If horses were a game pack, they would be so much less. The world would be so much smaller. I just don't think that it's feasible for them to have made it into a game pack. I don't think that this could have been achieved in a game pack. It takes so much work to build a feature like this. Horses really, really are a nightmare. Like to make a horse is a complete and total nightmare. That's why this whole time I figured we would never get a horse pack in The Sims 4. I think that maybe this criticism comes less from an issue with the pack not feeling full enough and more from an issue with the price, which kind of brings me to my final point. Is this pack worth it? I always have such a hard time with this question because at the end of the day, I think that $40 for any Sims pack is pretty steep. It's just hard to accept that cost for any of the packs. So what I will say is that compared to all of the other expansion packs, I think this one absolutely is worth it. It definitely feels similar in amount of content to all of the others. And if anything, it almost feels a little bit bigger than some. I've always been a really big fan of cottage living, and looking back on cottage living now, this feels so much better. Like the gameplay of cottage living was farming small town and cows, and this pack has all of those things and more. So actually, I like this a lot better than Cottage Living. And I have spent so many hours with this pack, and now even more hours writing this review, and I still feel like I didn't get to everything. I feel like I've got more to see and more to say, and there's just not enough time. I didn't actually encounter like any bugs in my gameplay. I saw a few people in the early access Discord reporting a few different small things, which obviously is to be expected. The game isn't even actually out yet when I'm recording this, and there's always gonna be something in a game this big. There's always gonna be something, but there was nothing game breaking. This is absolutely not a Wedding Stories 2.0, don't worry. And when I'm thinking about recommending packs to people, I usually try to think about them in terms of replayability. So my favorite packs of all time are ones that mesh really easily into my regular gameplay. So things like Seasons or Cats and Dogs I use with every single household I ever play, and honestly now Growing Together as well. These are things that I almost can't imagine playing without, but I don't think Horses will ever be that high on my list. It can never be my favorite pack because, let's be honest, I'm not gonna have a horse in every household. I'm just not gonna do it, right? So while it's fun to play with, I do kind of have to go out of my way to like make a sim that's gonna have a horse. And I do play with a lot of farming type households in my free time. So in the grand ranking of all of the expansion packs, this one's not low, but it's not the top. It's kind of a solid mid-tier pack for me. But really, honestly, I had so much fun playing with this pack. I think there was some novelty in it with like the pure shock and joy of me never expecting to get horses and then having horses. But also, if you like animals at all, you're probably gonna like this pack a lot. I didn't think I was a horse girl going into this, but after playing it this much and like the amount of research I've been doing about real life horses after playing them in The Sims, I fear that I might be getting kind of obsessed. I think I might be becoming a horse girl. I had a lot of fun with horses. I think this might be the most I've ever played a pack in early access, partially because I had more time, but also I just didn't want to put it down. I kept wanting to play. Obviously, not everybody is super into horses. This pack is not gonna be for everyone. A lot of people are though. A lot of people started playing The Sims 3 because they liked horses. They bought The Sims 3 as like a horse simulator. So if that's you, you are thriving. I think you're gonna love this pack. And I think my final review is that if you like horses, if you like animals, if you like farming, you're probably gonna love this pack. I would probably always encourage literally everyone to wait for a sale to buy a Sims pack, just to be honest with you, because they're expensive. And you know best for you personally if this is something that you like and you would enjoy today versus waiting 6 months from now to get it for half price. But I liked it. I like horses. I'm a horse girl now. I'm sorry to admit it, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was like getting emotional because I was so excited playing this pack, feeling like a child again, playing with my Sims 3 horses on summer break. I really had fun, and I feel like I can comfortably recommend this pack because it has so much stuff in it. I think that it's worth it for you as a player. I guess if you think you'll use it, because it's not for everybody. Nothing's for everybody. Okay, I think that I might be done there because this is long. So on that note, I'm probably gonna end this video right here. I am planning on live streaming today to show off more of the horse pack, so if you want to come watch that and play with us, my name is just lilsimsie on Twitch. I'm gonna link that down below for you. We have a lot of horse stuff to talk about, so if you want to see more, head over to my Twitch channel. And I'm also obviously planning on posting a ton of horse content here on YouTube for the next few weeks, so make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss that. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments now that you've seen more of the pack and heard my thoughts on them. And I hope that you liked this video because, oh my god, it's taken me so much time to make, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow, okay? Bye, everybody. I literally have an entire poop subsection on my review script. Like in my list of features, it's like horses, competitions, poop, but it's a big part of the pack.